The pros and cons of each joint. The mortise and tenon, that can take up to 60 minutes or more per joint for those of you that do a bunch of that. If you have a system down, you still have to hand fit each one. And the strength of that joint depends on how well you make it. If you don't have a tight fitting joint, if it's real loose, when you glue it up, you're not going to get the strength out of it. So that one takes a lot of fitting. There's probably 100 jigs out there that you can buy. Everyone claims to make it easier. You can cut them by hand. There's any number of ways to do that. The loose tendon, which is the festool that we saw last year, that's pretty expensive. I mean, it cuts a nice precision hole that you'll always have the correct fit. But it's a base price now of $800 for that tool. And you buy some other accessories with it, you can easily have $1,000 plus of that. That's probably something the average woodworker's not going to buy. If you're doing a lot of that type of stuff on a professional basis, you might consider it. Single dowel. There's all kinds of jigs out there for doing a single dowel. It's low cost, it's fairly easy setup, relatively low strength if you're just doing a single dowel. If you go to multiple dowels, you get a lot more strength that way, but if you're using a single dowel jig to do that, if you've all done that, you have to make sure every one of those and the mating pieces is set up correctly, or when you get done, the piece is not going to go together, which is why they've come out with some of these other multiple doweling jigs. Biscuit joint, the tool for that's relatively inexpensive. I think you can even get them under $100 for a real cheap one nowadays. And those go all the way up to $700 if you look at a Lamello, I think that's how you pronounce that, some of the professional models. Easy setup, doesn't take you long to cut those, but again, you don't get a lot of strength out of that. That was really designed more for the cabinet industry and aligning things and stuff like that. Pocket hole, that's very quick. The advantage of that, if you're doing face frames or something like that, I mean, it's a perfect application for that. You don't have to wait for the glue to dry. Put your glue in there, run the screw in, you move on to your next joint. On a face frame, you're not worried a lot about side forces or anything pulling that out because you're mounting it to something else. So it works great for that type of application. And like I said, the strength really depends on where the joint is used on the side forces. The Dowel Max, which is a jig similar to the beadLock, it cuts multiple dowels all in one pass. But for what's there and what I've seen of that, that's fairly expensive. It's $350 for the jig. Setup is easy and the joint's relatively strong. And then the beadLock Pro, which is what I'm going to show you tonight, that's $120 for the jig. Kits, what I mean by kits is it comes standard with a 3/8 setup. You can buy a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch, and those are like $40 a piece to add into there. So what you have is a standard clamp with this, and you've got your template in here. With your multiple series of holes. This happens to be a 3/8. The other thing about this jig, if you want to cut a standard mortise with it, they do give you the blocks that go in place of the dowel template. So you can drill your multiple holes, pull that out, you put this in here, and now you've got a nice clean edge guide to run your chisel to clean it up if you want to cut a standard mortise or something. And that comes with the kits. So to cut a joint with this, you can see you can buy just blank stock and cut whatever length you want in the 3 sizes. I think these are 12 inches long, or you can buy them already cut. And they also sell the router bit if you want to make your own, like anything else. So you can make them up out of your own stock. So we're going to do a joint right here. In this application, I'm joining the same thickness of wood to the same thickness. All we're going to do is set our joint up to where we want it. We're going to take the beadLock and we're going to place it on the joint where we want it. And we're just going to draw a pencil mark on there. Then we're going to label each part just to make it easy, A and B. So now we've marked our joint like so. Another little tip, that something I like to do, I'm also a golfer as well as a woodworker. I collect all these pencils from the golf courses. I love them for woodworking. You can only sharpen them 2 or 3 times. They get too short. What I like about it, you can put it in any pocket and it's not going to jab you. You know, normally when you have a long pencil, you end up jabbing yourself with it wherever you have it. These are so short, you can put it in a jeans pocket or anything else, and they're always handy. So I have literally hundreds of these at home because I collect them every place I go when I golf. I get my friends to collect them too. They bring them over, so, and they're free. Just a little tip there. Okay, so we've marked this like so. Now we have to mark the center line on the board. If you're joining wood of the same thickness, that center line is not important that it be dead on, because you're gonna distance it with the jig from the same side on both pieces, so you automatically will line up when you're done. So I run my center line on here. I got my piece there. Okay, what this does, what this jig does, is you have a left and a right orientation. This slides a little bit. That's how you get the dowel holes basically overlapping, so this will fit. So you start out with this to the left. And what I'm going to do, there's also, it's probably hard for you to see, but down here, there are lines on there to align it with the hole, or the line that I put on here. So basically, I'm going to start out, I'm going to line that up right there, like that. If I can see it. Okay, this was already set up. The other thing you have to do then is this slides back and forth, and you want to align that with the center line that you drew on the edge of your board. So I'm all set there. Make sure this is tight. I've already set my depth here. They tell you for which dowel you're using, what that distance is, and that'll ensure that you're deep enough in here for the pre-cut ones and still give you a little bit of place for squeeze out of your glue. So what I'm going to do, and the instructions on this will tell you which holes you're going to use. And in this case, I'm using the 3/8 block. Okay, my first series, as I've got this shifted to the left, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this up and I'm going to slide this all the way over to the right. And this tells me on here for my next series I'm going to use holes 1 and 2. Now what I end up with is that for this side. So now I'm going to drill the other side. The reason I labeled this A and B, so I make sure that I'm always orienting the jig from the same side. That ensures I don't even have to mark the center line on this one, because we're joining same thickness to same thickness. If we were doing something a different thickness, like a cross brace on a table leg or something like that, then you'd want to make sure you accurately mark both of these, and you'd have to shift the jig for each one in terms of the center line. So now for this one, they do this, they want to make this as easy as they can for you. I started out with this on the left and I shifted it to the right to drill the other holes. I'm just going to leave it now to the right, and I'm going to come over, because my line's over here, and I'm going to line this up to the right side. Okay, if you remembered on this one, we drilled 3 holes and then we drilled 2. We're going to do the same thing with this, except we're going to start in from the other side. We're going to loosen this now, and we're going to shift it to the right. And we're going to drill 2 more holes from the 2 far right side. So if I did this correctly, it should fit. Okay, we got our 2 sides that we started with. There you go.